Hi everybody, welcome to the Unit 2 U.S. History test. This is the modified version. Before you start your test today, make sure that while you're testing, you read through the questions, answer those that you know right away, and make sure that you're copying down what you are answering on paper for your first attempt. This saves your work if you lose power or internet. It records what you put on your first attempt in case you want to try it again. Click Save as you go. Copy and paste essay responses that you have prepared ahead into the test, and review notes for questions that are unfamiliar. Use your textbook for questions that aren't addressed in the notes, and read over the test once more before submitting. Make sure that you click Submit. Okay, you're going to click Save as you go through the test, but click Submit at the end. If you do not do these steps, you may create a test error. Also, do not exit the test before you are done. You can't get back in. It will use your second attempt if you do, and you can create a test submission error on top of it, which means your grade will not correctly be recorded. So be careful to follow these steps and read them over carefully. Pause the recording now if you need to, and review those steps at your own pace. All right, let's get started with the test. This test has a total of 26 multiple choice questions and 2 short answers. The first question is, which did not contribute to the U.S. decision to go to war against Spain? The need to protect U.S. investments in Cuba, yellow journalism promoting war, or the Spanish attack on Puerto Rico? Continuing on with number 2, which group lists outcomes of the Spanish-American War? Group A, Treaty of Paris, Cuban independence, and the Philippines and Puerto Rico becoming U.S. territories? Or would Group B be a list of outcomes in the Spanish-American War? Treaty of San Juan, Puerto Rican independence, and Nicaragua and Panama become U.S. territories. Which one fits better, Group A or Group B? Number 3, the United States acquired several new territories during the late 1800s, which 2 eventually became states: Alaska and Hawaii, Alaska and Oregon, Hawaii and California. Number 4, which U.S. president made the following proposal? Quote, a general association of nations must be formed under specific covenants for the purpose of affording mutual guarantees of political independence and territorial integrity to great and small states alike. End quote. Was that Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, or Woodrow Wilson? Number 5, negotiations with Colombia resulted in the purchase of a 10-mile wide strip of land that led to President Theodore Roosevelt's greatest achievement. What was that achievement? A guaranteed source of Panamanian gold and silver, permanent oil drilling rights in Panama, or the Panama Canal? Number 9, which of the following is not an accurate matching of a U.S. president and his foreign policy? Franklin Roosevelt and his foreign policies of the Monroe Doctrine and speak softly and carry a big stick. Wilson, moral diplomacy. Or Taft, with the foreign policy of dollar diplomacy? Which one does not accurately match the U.S. president with his foreign policy concepts? Number 7, what was the effect of Germany's decision to allow unrestricted submarine warfare? Great Britain stepped up its naval actions and stopped Germany. The British and the French prepared to surrender. It was a final action leading to the U.S. declaration of war. Question 8. Which policies kept the United States from entering World War I in its first 3 years? Isolationism and neutrality, imperialism and democracy, or imperialism and neutrality? Number 9. A stalemate occurs when neither side in a conflict can act. Which of the following was an event that ended the stalemate in World War I in 1917? The invasion of Normandy, a significant German naval victory, or an American entry into the war? Number 10, what impact did the U.S. entry into World War I have on labor and production? There was a serious labor shortage that was difficult to fill. The civilian population was unable to keep up with the supply needs of the military. Or the last option, with men drafted to serve in the military, jobs opened for women and minorities. Number 11, What was one way that the government extended power to reduce debate and dissent over U.S. participation in World War I? It formed the National Civil Liberties Bureau, it passed the Espionage and Sedition Acts, or it promoted the Red Scare. For question 12, you're going to use the text above as part of a famous speech that President Wilson gave as World War I was ending. It contained his ideas for world peace after the war. What was the name of this peace plan? Okay, so this is the speech that Woodrow Wilson gave to the Senate, and it was about his peace plan. The question is going to be asking what was the name of his peace plan. So here is his speech. Gentlemen of the Congress, we entered this war because violations of right had occurred which touched us to the quick and made the life of our own people impossible unless they were corrected, and the world secured once for all against their reoccurrence. What we demand in this war, therefore, is nothing peculiar to ourselves. It is that the world be made fit and safe to live in, and particularly that it be made safe for every peace-loving nation which, like our own, wishes to live its own life, determine its own institutions, be assured of justice and fair dealing by the other peoples of the world as against force and selfish aggression. The program of the world's peace, therefore, is our program, and that program, the only possible program as we see it, is this: absolute freedom of navigation upon the seas, the removal, so far as possible, of all economic barriers, and the establishment of an equality of trade conditions, adequate guarantees given and taken that national armaments will be reduced to the lowest point consistent with domestic safety, and a free, open-minded, and absolutely impartial adjustment of all colonial claims. These particular parts of Woodrow Wilson's plan for peace were listed in which? The Treaty of Paris, the 14 Points, or the New Deal. Number 13, beginning in January of 1919, delegates from all of the Allied countries met at the Paris Peace Conference to negotiate peace treaties between them and the Central Powers. The Allied powers and Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. Which of the following things did the Treaty of Versailles do? The Treaty of Versailles led to the creation of a world peacekeeping organization called the United Nations. The Treaty of Versailles was favorable to Germany, or the Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept blame for the war and disarm their military. Number 14, what was a major reason for the United States' failure to ratify the Treaty of Versailles? They believed that Wilson should have gained some territory for the United States. They objected to the League of Nations, fearing that it would supersede U.S. authority. They decided that German reparations were not sufficient to meet the cost of the war. Number 15, why are the 20s sometimes called the age of prosperity? This is the 1920s. Why were they called the age of prosperity? Incomes throughout the United States grew and the middle class held most of the wealth. Most people were able to purchase cars and many families had more than one. Or the GNP rose dramatically and the United States changed from the debtor nation to a creditor nation. Number 16, what did the automobile have, or why did the automobile have a major impact on the United States in the 20s? Traffic began to create commuting problems that the government failed to address. Inexperienced drivers caused numerous accidents that made it difficult for hospitals to provide adequate care. Or by the end of the decade, automobile ownership had increased dramatically. Number 17, how did youth culture change during the 1920s? Students were able to remain in school longer and the adolescent culture developed. No real youth culture existed during the 1920s, or youth were expected to hold jobs that contributed to the welfare of the family. Number 18, what was the Harlem Renaissance? A new trend in modern art that featured abstract black sculptures, an African American cultural movement that included literature, drama, music, art, and dance, or a more urban name for the Dixieland jazz that developed in New Orleans and was brought to New York. Question 19. What did the nativists and the Ku Klux Klan have in common? Both supported artists and writers that addressed the cultural changes of the 1920s. Both believed that communists had the same rights to freedom and speech as all Americans. Or C, both objected to immigration and believed in the supremacy of white Protestants. Number 20, what changes did the 18th Amendment bring to Americans? Women gained the right to vote, so elections focused on different issues. Prohibition of the sale of alcohol brought bootleggers and an increase in organized crime. Or the last option, the draft tripled the size of the military and brought U.S. forces up to European levels. Number 21, what brought the conflict between the teaching of evolution and religious fundamentalism to a head? Was it the death of Warren Harding, the defeat of Al Smith, or the Scopes monkey trial, as it was known? Number 22, what group could be described for the first time in the 1920s with the term flapper, wage earner, and voter? Women, adolescents, or African Americans? Number 23, how did the actions of the presidents listed above bring the nation into the Roaring Twenties? Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover. Was it the first option, they invested or investigated large sums of American tax dollars, giving incentives to business owners? B, they were largely inactive and allowed business to grow unregulated? Or C, they opened new markets for American products overseas by employing dollar diplomacy? Question number 24. Read and review the quotes above. What are the authors of these quotes discussing? Speaker A, it is proper for the United States to seize the Philippines before some other country does. We can use both the natural resources and the port. Speaker B, we have saved the Cubans from Spain. It would be dangerous to give them too much freedom. For their own good, we must keep them under control. Speaker C, we cannot risk having European governments sending their troops to South America. We alone must control this hemisphere if we are able to be secure, or if we are able to be secure. 24, okay, again, we're reading and reviewing the quotes above. What are the authors of these quotes discussing? Is it imperialism, isolationism, or neutrality? I'm going to pause or stop the recording here and pick up the recording with number 25 with the next link. So there'll be 2 recordings for this test. We'll pick up with number 25 in a moment.